both the pistons are just in place, not moving. So I've never seen that before where it breaks both connecting rods. That's must have been running on one cylinder already, and they just continued to run it until that one gave out with no oil in it. That's pretty impressive, actually. I've never seen one do that. So it looks like we'll be yanking this engine off of here, which is not... Project for today is going to be tearing down this Kawasaki FX691V. It's got 2 broken connecting rods from what I can tell. This came off of that right stand-on zero-turn mower that we put the new engine in the last video. I thought it'd be interesting to tear this down and see what actually failed in it. I know it did run out of oil was what caused the failure, but also we'll save a bunch of parts off of this. There's a lot of good parts on it still, the carburetor and the intake and possibly the heads. I'm not sure about that, but the flywheel and ignition system and stuff is still good. But we'll tear it all the way down to pretty much the bare bones and see what kind of carnage is on the inside. So first thing I'm going to do is take these brackets off for held the exhaust on. I'll probably pull the brackets and then this engine cover, and then we'll take the valve covers and the heads off. I was going to do a part 2 on that right zero turn, but I had a buyer for it, so I just finished it up real quick. All that was left was to build exhaust brackets and then that deck belt. So if you haven't watched that one, I'll put a link to that video in the description. So we'll pull this flywheel screen off of here so the cover will come. These Kawasaki's are super tough engines. This one had 1,800 hours on it, if this is the original, which I'm guessing that it is. Pull this fuel line. That fuel pump will come with the cover. That's probably worth saving too. One thing, if you do want to save these vacuum style fuel pumps, you can just put a little bit of clean oil in all of the holes and then plug the lines, and that'll actually make those diaphragms stay pliable. Otherwise they'll dry out and harden up, and usually they're no good if you keep them sitting on the shelf for a while. Looks like we got another one here. Should be loose. Well, I had a mouse nest in there too. We had a heck of a mouse nest there. This did sit for a long time after the engine went though, so I'm not thinking that was the issue of why it blew up. Because like I said, there was no oil in it. I'll pull that dipstick out. You can see it. There's a little bit on there, but when I first pulled it out, it was all sparkly with metal shavings and stuff on it, and there really wasn't any oil on it. So I'll get that cleaned out and then we'll continue on. So I think I'll pull this starter off of here. I'm trying to just lighten it up so it's a little bit easier to move around. That's one heavy piece. The starter should have still been good too. Just those 2 bolts there. Not sure what that one was, maybe just a ground wire. These can be a little bit stuck in there. I'll have to grab something to tap on the top. Just try to tap it down. And it fell out of there. It looks like it'll still be okay. I'll bench test it to see, but that's a Denso OEM starter. You can't beat the OEM ones of these. They're pretty expensive, but if you buy an aftermarket one on Amazon or something, they don't last. They might work for a while. I always tell people about 1 in 5 of those things ends up being good. We'll pull the coils off. And it looks like we got lucky and the mice didn't chew our coil wire. This is like a outer protective shield. Looks like they might have chewed that, but they didn't get into the actual wire. There was a kill wire here too that I had already pulled off of there when I cleaned the mouse nest out. We'll save both of those. I think maybe we'll pull this flywheel off of here too. I'll pull the fan first. There we go. A bunch of junk down in there. I normally would shop vac a bunch of this stuff out of here, but my shop vac died on me. If you guys have any recommendations for a good shop vac, put it down in the comments. I had a Craftsman one. It lasted quite a few years, but now looking for a new one. I don't know if the Harbor Freight ones are any good. I was looking at some of those. But I do use that quite a bit in the shop. Keeps everything a lot cleaner than just blowing stuff off of there and it goes all over the floor. So that's probably maybe an 18 millimeter. I'll grab a socket for that. It looks like it's a 17 millimeter. I was off by 1. I'll put this bolt back down in there so we can pull that flywheel off. So I'm just going to put a pry bar behind this flywheel, and I threaded this bolt down all the way. It popped off of there. It's got good magnets, they were holding it back. Sometimes these magnets will come unglued. I always check them just to see if they'll move, but that one looks okay. That's a good flywheel to save. And this charging stator should actually be good also. We'll leave that for now. Now I think I'll start pulling the carburetor off of it so we can get the heads off. Looks like we'll have to take that throttle plate off. A spring there, a spring there. I'll take the spring off of the throttle, and then that just kind of clips out of that plastic piece. The carburetor linkage feels okay. They get loose sometimes. That'll cause an intake leak. the throttle shaft is loose in the carburetor, because as it's moving and shaking and stuff, it'll wear into the carb body sometimes. We've got a breather hose on that intake. There we go. I'll unplug this solenoid. Get the carburetor off of there. And I just got the 4 10mm bolts for the intake. A lot of gunk packed in this head. That could have been part of the issue. This actually looks like it's full of oil, so it could have been getting hot. Pull this head cover. Got the voltage regulator. I had to unplug off of that. We'll take this cover off too. Oh, we're getting closer. We can pull the valve covers off. It doesn't look terrible. This is the more filthy side, so I'm guessing this is going to be the carnage side. Yeah, it's a lot dirtier in there. Looks like we're leaking some oil, so there was a little bit in there. Not sure where that's coming from. Oh, when we tilted it back to get that flywheel off, it must have had a little bit in there leaking. That's the wiring harness for the coils, I believe. Pull that off. And it looks like maybe some 14mm for the head bolts we have to pull off of there. There's 4 head bolts, it looks like. I thought maybe we'd have to get the big impact for that. I had to adapt down to a 3/8 socket to fit down in there. That's a little bit thinner wall. I had an impact socket for the 1/2-inch drive that didn't fit. It looks like we have to take the rockers off to get to them other head bolts. Leave that together. I got a bent push rod. I don't know if you can, oh yeah, you can see it's bent. So I'm guessing the piston hit the valves. These bolts sit on like a eccentric like cam, so that's how you adjust your valve clearance on these Kawasaki's. That push rod seems straight. Probably still wouldn't reuse it, but alright, that should be everything to get this head off anyway. Oh, we missed the head bolt right there. So I guess there's five head bolts. The valves don't look damaged. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing the chunk of that connecting rod down in there probably is what bent that push rod. The piston looks okay. It does move. You can see I can turn the crank and the piston doesn't move at all. But I was able to push it down so it wasn't seized in the cylinder. So we'll pull the other head off. Do the same thing. Pull them rockers. There was still oil up here. But this doesn't need quite as much lubrication as the lower end does. Normally if I was actually going to rebuild this or anything, I would have a lot cleaner work area, but we're just tearing this down to see what happened and save some parts, so I'm not too concerned with keeping everything clean. Well, we should be able to pull the head bolts on this side now. Should be all 5. 3, 4, 5. Well, the valves look okay on that one too. As good as they're going to. There's still a lot of carbon in there. But there's a pretty good score in that cylinder. You can kind of see that. There you can see the scoring right down in here. The other cylinder didn't look all that bad. It's kind of surprising. So now I think we can tip it up. We'll take this bottom cover off. I'm going to put something under it to soak up some of that oil, but then we'll see the real carnage once we get that cover off. So this sump cover has 12mm bolts all the way around it. Those are pretty tight too. I swapped out to a new battery. We'll see if that makes a difference. Yeah, that is a lot more powerful now. I think that's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll get the dead blow and tap that up. There we go. You can see all the junk down in there. That thing really grenaded. So what you see down in there is what's left of the connecting rods. You can see that crank is scored really bad, especially on this side. So it got good and hot and didn't have much for lubrication. So this should just, the rest of the stuff should pop out of here fairly easy. So I'll pop that out and then we'll see what we're dealing with. So the cam should slide out, which it doesn't look terrible, but you can tell that it had metal ran around on it. So I probably wouldn't reuse that either. The crank. There you can really see it transferred all that aluminum right onto the crank. There's a oil port holes that one's plugged off. So that one was toasted. There's what we had left of the piston, and the rod is snapped and up inside there and broke the skirt there. I'll get the other piston out. Might have to go out the top. Normally you would go out the top. There we go. That one's not quite as bad. So it must have been, the rod is snapped there though. So it must have been this side, which is actually the cleaner side, but that's the side that must have went first. And then we just got piles of carnage inside there. So I put some gloves on. I'm gonna dig in here and grab all these pieces out, put in this tray. That's what we got left of our connecting rods. You don't see them grenade quite that bad. You can see it snapped the caps off of them and snapped the rod. This one's got that's just the middle of the rod. There's half of a cap and then part of the rod. So it really grenaded things. I think that's about it for the big chunks. Yeah, that would have been that rod. And the cap's busted also. So this thing was at high speed when it grenaded. I'll get a few things cleaned up and we'll see what kind of good parts we're left with. So this is pretty much all the stuff we're left with after we got it tore down. A lot of it's just scrap metal, but a lot of it's good stuff. Like pretty much all the fuel system stuff is good. The electrical was all good. The starter and the coils and all the covers and all that. The block is no good. The heads are pretty much not usable. I mean, you might be able to use the heads, but I wouldn't trust them. You don't know if the piston's banged. You have to pull the valves out and make sure they're not bent or anything. The crank is pretty well shot, the cam, and that sump, I wouldn't dare use that. You just don't know. There's an oil pump in there. You'd have to clean it really well to try to save any of that stuff. And the flywheel was good. But that's gonna do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.